will discuss about a new topic, which is friction. First, what is a friction? So you can able to see here in the picture, if you have a object, right, which is resting on a floor. The object, if you look very minute in let me consider, you are magnifying the particular location, and if you see that there is some roughness in the floor and the object, right? So because of this roughness, what happens is when you try to move the object, it would move, right? There will be something restriction. What is the restriction? The roughness will have some normal force. So whenever it is having contact, because of that normal forces, there will be some restriction. Okay, so that restriction we call it as a friction. Okay, so here a friction is a resistance to motion of one object moving related to the other. So this is the main explanation of this friction. It is a resistance. It is a resistance, and of course, it's a force, right? As I told you, it is always opposite to the movement of the object. So whatever the object of the movement, it is always opposite to that. Okay, so it is not a fundamental force like regular gravity or electromagnetism, something like that. It is a force which always occur when there is a movement in the object, right? If the object is already in a resting state, you don't have any friction force. Only if the object starts to move. So whenever we say when it starts to move, we call that as impending. Okay, so the word starts to move, right? The word starts to move, we call that as impending, right? When the object is impending, right, then we say that you will have friction. Okay, so what is the main things happens? So because of this friction, so friction produces wear and tear. So what is this wear and tear? Tearது. So whenever you have a friction, you have this um, wear and tear for any application, right? It is a negative part of the friction. So friction causes heat in an object. So whenever you have a friction, it causes heat. So it is either negative or positive. It depends on the situation. Right? For example, if you want to get a fire, right, you have a matchstick, and what you'll do, you create a friction which produces fire. Okay, that is the advantage of it, right? Sometimes that you have an object or you are moving in a particular, let me consider you have a motor in your house or fan in your house. Because of the friction, what happens, the fan is getting heated, right? So that is a negative part, right? So you have to know where you to use accordingly. So it may be a positive or negative, it depends. So when you consider heat, so friction helps to transmit power, right? As I told you, if you want to transmit power, let me consider you have a machine. You can have it, you can able to see a grinder or a mixie in your home, which is connected to a belt. Okay, so you have a motor. Motor is transmitting power to that, so that your grinder is rotating. Okay, these are all things to which is applicable related to friction. Okay, so the main advantage of the friction, if you consider, as I told you, to produce heat, right, to get fire. So that is one advantage. Brakes. So all the brakes, you are stopping the vehicle because of this brake. So which is a friction which is produced on these two surfaces, which will make your object to rest. Okay. So that is one main advantage. Transmitting power. So from motor to a shaft, right, by means of a belt. So that is also related to friction. And even in your shoes, if you consider, so you can able to see the heels of the shoe. It may be a plastic or rubber, which is better. Rubber. Why? Because it has my higher friction. It has higher friction when compared to plastic object, which may lead to slide. Okay, so these are all some advantages of this friction. So when you consider disadvantage, so let me consider you have a engine. So you can able to see this is the piston in the engine. So it is moving continuously. You can able to see that in So because of this continuous reciprocating motion, there may be a wear, right, along the path of this cylinder, right? So along the path of the cylinder. So what you will do? So if you use a vehicle more than 10 years, 10 years, or they will say that reboring. So we want to rebore. You want to rebore your thing. What they will do? They will make a drill on your piston, sorry, on your cylinder, and they will increase the size of the piston a little bit. Okay, we call that as reboring. So which that is also applicable. So because this is one disadvantage of your friction, it causes wear and tear. So even the tires, right? Tires in the car. If you look at the tires, so what happens? There is a possibility in rainy season to slide. So you don't have any control in your vehicle, because if you look at the tire grips, so that will go off, right? That will wear off, right? So because of that, you don't have that friction, so it will cause problem, right? So actually the wear occurs due to friction. Here what you can say, it is applicable. Friction is very very important, but the friction also acts as a disadvantage because of wear. Okay, so the next thing is speed. It will reduce the speed, right? If you have higher friction, it will reduce the speed of your vehicle, right? Whatever you consider. That's why you can able to see that. So if I consider a bigger luxury cars, right? So if you look at the tire, so it is very very higher in width. So the mileage is very very less, right? Why? Because it needs higher power to move, right? So because of the friction, but it will have stability, more stable object. But what I can say, the speed is lesser, right? So these are the disadvantages. So when I consider the types of friction, so mainly you can classify into two. So one we call it as a dry friction, other one we call it as a fluid friction, right? So anything, so without any lubrication, we call that as a dry friction, and it is also called as a Coulomb friction, right? It is also called as a Coulomb friction. So this dry friction is again classified into two, which is a static and dynamic. So a friction caused when there is no motion of an object, when the object starts to move, right? That one we call it as a static, right? So static is impending, right? Static is impending to move. Impending means, as I told you, it starts to move, right? Dynamic. So dynamic, your object is continuously moving, like you are riding a bike or something like that. So that is dynamic. So that is dynamic friction. Okay. So the next one is fluid friction. Whenever you have what you can say, a lubrication, right? A lubrication or a air medium or a water medium related with a particular object, then we call that as a fluid friction, right? So even if you consider a car, so if you see the dimension, so the design of a car, it will be like this. You can able to see that like this, because if air is flowing here, it will try to move along this path without any disturbance, right? So that is the main purpose of this the shape of that car. So what happens if we consider a bus, it doesn't have something like that. So what happens, there is a direct contact of air which is acting here. This will cause a higher friction, so that the bus will move slowly, right? This is different, okay, when compared to this. This all deals with fluid frictions. Okay, okay. So let me consider static friction. So actually we call this as loss of friction, right? We also call this as a loss of friction. So where you actually the friction is evolving, so at what location, and how do you identify that? Okay, so let me consider you have an object here, right? So you have a force which is acting. So you can able to see that you are applying a force, a vertical force, right? So this object is not moving, right? Because there is no force in x direction which makes your object to move. right? So we say that this object is in equilibrium state. This is an equilibrium state, right? It is an equilibrium state, which means your reaction will be whatever the force is in downward direction, right? Upward force is equal to downward force. Upward force will be equal to downward force is P and W, which is P plus W. So there is no friction in this case because it is in equilibrium state. Now, what happens is, let me apply an inclined force. So when I apply an inclined force, I can resolve this into two. So one, a vertical force, which is Py, and the other one is horizontal force, which is Px. So now when I resolve it, I am getting two forces, one vertical force and one horizontal force. Let me consider this horizontal force Px is lesser. It doesn't have that much amount of capacity to make this object to move. So here also there is no motion. No motion of your object, right? If there is no motion of the object, again I can say that it is also an equilibrium state. It is also an equilibrium state. So I can equate it. Sigma fx is equal to 0. If I equate it, what I can say, your sigma fx is equal to 0 means you have a friction force F. So there is a friction force, something which is related, right? Is equal to Px, something like this, right? So because if I don't have this force, you have only Px, which means your object is moving. It is not something. So there is something which is resisting, right? So that is Pf is equal to Px, right? And your normal force is N, which is equal to Py plus F, Py plus W. So now if I consider this F is always lesser than mu into N. So we already discussed what is mu into N. So force of friction into normal force, right? So this is always lesser. So I can't equate it, right? F is different, right? So F is equal to Px. That is different. It is acting like a force. It is acting like a opposing force or a normal force, reaction force, whatever you can say. But it's not friction force, right? Because it is your object is still it is not moving, right? The object is still, it is not moving. So it is not a friction force. Now let me consider you apply a little more higher force, right? Now your object starts to move, or your object is impending. Your object is impending, right? When this object is impending, then I can say that, so something called as Fm, right? So a new variable. So we call this as a static friction, right? This we call it as a static friction. Now I can equate Fm is equal to mu into N. The mu is the coefficient of friction and N is your reaction force, right? So how to get N? Of course, it is sigma Fy is equal to 0, Py plus W, right? So this is your friction force. This F1 is your friction force. What type of friction it is? Static friction. So why we call it as static friction? It is trying to move. Just now it is static to move, right? That's why we call that as a static friction. Okay. So let me consider your object is continuously moving. If your object is continuously moving, now I say that it is not in equilibrium state. Not in equilibrium state. Even in this case, it is in equilibrium. Okay, even in this case, it is in equilibrium, but this case, it is not in equilibrium. So I can't equate. So sigma fx is not equal to sigma fy, right? So px is greater when compared to fk, right? And but you have friction. But you have friction where friction is mu k into n, right? So you can able to see the difference. So here we call this as mu s, coefficient of static friction. This is mu k. Mu k is coefficient of kinetic friction because your object is moving, continuously moving, right? So we call this as a kinetic friction. Okay. So other things are same. So note that your mu s is always greater when compared to mu k. Your static friction is always having higher force. So higher friction value when compared to your kinetic friction, right? So because your object, so when you start the object, it is somewhat difficult. Once it is started, then your friction is lesser, right? Because the contact surface is having lesser contact. So which means your friction, your kinetic friction is always lesser, right? So this is what we describe. So your friction is always applicable when your object is impending or when your object is moving continuously. It is not when your object is at resting state. Now we will proceed. So this is what it happens. So when you apply a force, right, and what happens to your friction. So let me consider, you apply a force, what happens, there is a continuous increase in the friction until you get a maximum value. So here the object starts to move, right? This is what we call as impending, right? Impends. Okay, so that location we call it as static friction, right? That location we call it as a static friction. Once your object is moving, what happens, suddenly there is a decrease in your friction and then it becomes a constant value, right? That we call it as dynamic friction, right? This one we call it as a dynamic friction. This is when your object is having motion. So when this is the object is a resting state. Okay, so you can able to say that up to this, you can say that it is in equilibrium state, right? So when it crosses, it is not in equilibrium, right? When it crosses, you don't have in equilibrium. So most of the problems we deal only up to equilibrium state, not when the object is having motion. Right? Sometimes in the problem they will give two coefficient of frictions. They say that coefficient of static friction mu s, and they will also give coefficient of kinetic friction mu k. Right? And they say that your object is impending. In that case, which one we have to use? We always use mu s, not mu k. Right? So always use mu s. Don't go for mu k. Okay, so only if you have a continuous motion, you have to go for mu k. This is the difference between static and dynamic friction, dynamic or kinetic friction. Okay, right. So next, there is something called as angle of friction, right? So what I am doing here is I have two forces, right? One is a normal force, right? So everything is in red color. I'll change some other color. Yeah, let me consider you have a normal force, right? And you have a friction force. There are two forces, right? What I'm doing is I'm getting resultant of these two forces. This is friction force Fr and this is normal force N. If I take resultant of these two forces, you will get a resultant force R, right? Now the angle with respect to the normal force and R, we call it as theta or phi. This phi we call it as angle of friction, right? This phi we call it as angle of friction. So it will be related to tan theta. So tan phi is equal to mu s. Directly you can also identify. Sometimes they will give angle. In that case, you can identify what is the value of your coefficient of friction mu s. Mu s will be equal to tan phi, right? Tan phi, you will get what is the value of mu s. Okay. So R is a resultant of the friction force and the normal reaction. Then the angle between the resultant R and the normal reaction is called as angle of friction phi. Next, we will deal with the another concept called as angle of repose, right? So let me consider you have a block, right, which is kept in an inclined plane, right? So you have a block. So this block is not at all moving because of this inclination theta, right? I am slowly increasing the value of theta. I'm slowly increasing the value of theta. At a particular angle, your block will move, right? It will start to move, right? That one, that angle, we call it as angle of repose, right? The inclination angle at which the object starts to impend, right? So it is related to your inclination, inclined plane, So when you get that, so your theta will be equal to your angle of friction theta s, right? Your theta will be equal to your angle of friction theta s. Okay, the angle at which your object tries to move, right? So starting la move agadu, increase பண்ணிக்கிட்டே இருந்தனா ஒரு particular location it will start to move, right? That angle at which it starts to move, that angle we call it as angle of repose. So there are different application of the friction, right, related to this. So these are all we have as a problem, right, which we will be solving it. The first one is block, right? So the friction will have a block friction, right? So block is whatever. So we solved in kinetics, same thing. So you have two blocks which is connected to a thread, something like that. You have to identify what is the mu value or what is the k value, whatever it is. That is a block friction. Next, we have something called as wedge friction, right? So wedge friction is another friction. We will be discussing that. Next, ladder friction. After that, we have belt friction. And the last, we have screw friction. Right? These are the different types of friction applications. We'll be solving problems in these types except the screw friction. Right? Screw friction is not in your syllabus. So these are different types of frictions. So the first one is block friction. You know that you have a block. So the problem will be related to this. You will be given a force which is applied to this. You have to identify what will be the friction or coefficient of friction. Right? So most of the problems we solved is related to this. Again, we will try to solve one more problem in this. Okay. The next one is wedge friction. So what is wedge actually? So wedge is a particular object or simple object which is used to raise heavy loads, right? So something you can able to see these things whenever if you want they'll be hitting it by means of an hammer. So something if you want to lift, they'll be keeping it in between and they will be hitting it with respect to hammer so that they will lift the object, right? That particular object what we are using, that one we call it as a wedge. Okay, so the force whatever you apply here is lesser when compared to lifting a particular object. That's why we use this wedge. Okay, so whenever you apply wedge, it is also related to block. Only difference is your wedge doesn't have a weight, right? You neglect the weight of the wedge. So we consider only the force of the wedge. Whereas if we consider block, we will consider what is the weight of this block also. For us wedge, it doesn't require. So the weight of the wedge is neglected. Okay. So what happens? So let me consider you have an object here. You are applying a force like this. So because of that, what happens? Your wedge will try to move along this direction. Your wedge will try to move along this direction, right? So when your wedge is trying to move, what happens to this object? This will object will move towards upward direction, right? This object will move towards upward direction. So if I want to draw a free body diagram, always start with the wedge. First, you start with the wedge, identify the free body diagram, then you use it for your block. So this is my force which is acting. So which means your object is moving along this direction, right? The contact surface is two contact surface, one along with this block and another wedge. Okay. So we'll have two normal forces, N and N3. So we mentioned as N2 and N3. So since the object is moving along this direction, you have a friction in opposite direction, which is F2 and F3, right? So this is my free body diagram for this wedge. Once you identify this, now you go for this block. So you know that this location, if we consider this location, it has to be in equilibrium state. So இந்த இடத்துல வந்து leftல இருந்ததுன்னா அந்த இடத்துல rightல இருக்கணும், right? That is what I say that in equilibrium state. So what happens is if the normal force in this wedge, that is the contact between wedge and block, the normal force in the wedge is towards downward direction, then for the block it is in upward direction, so that when you add this two it becomes zero. Similarly, the friction force is left hand side, so here the friction force is now the right hand side, right? The friction force so that if you add it, it becomes zero. Add on this, you also have a contact with this particular wall. If the object is moving upward, so your friction will be downward. So you have friction downward and a normal reaction. Okay. So this is how you will be drawing the free body diagram. Then what we will do, it is similar procedure. We can say it is in equilibrium state and we can equate it. Right. So this problem we call it as a wedge problem, wedge friction problem. Right. Same, similar to your block. Only thing is we are not considering a weight of a particular block. Okay. So other things are same. Right. Any doubt in this?
No, sir.
Okay. Next, you have ladder friction. So ladder friction is something like this. So let me consider you are having a ladder and a man is climbing on the ladder, right? So at a particular location, your ladder is filling down, so it is falling, right? How it falls? What about your position B? It comes up or comes? It goes up. So goes up or comes down? Sorry. Point B.
Down, sir.
Yeah. So in this location, your this ladder will come down. What about point A? Point A.
The distance from the wall will increase
No, no. How it will move? Left or right?
towards the
Yes,
left.
sir.
Towards left. Right. So this will be moving towards left. Right. So in that case, what happens here is you will consider similar type of friction. So one, weight of the ladder, then weight of the person, then you have a contact between the ladder and the wall here. So you have a normal reaction RB. Since this is moving downward, you have friction on opposite direction FB. Right. Similarly, in this case, you have a normal reaction RA. Since it is moving along this direction, you have friction along opposite direction FA. So you have all these forces, right? What you will do is you will say it is like a moment because it is not in not a concurrent force as like your block. It is a non-concurrent forces, right? So what I say, I can say sigma fx is equal to 0, sigma fy is equal to 0, and moment at any point is equal to 0. You equate it, find whatever the data they want. Sometimes they will ask you what is the weight of the man. Sometimes they will ask you what is the coefficient of friction or what is the weight of the ladder, something like that. So based on these things, you can able to identify, right? Make sure. So sometimes they will say that your wall is smooth. If they say wall is smooth, only your friction will applicable when you have a rough surface. When you have a smooth surface, what again you don't have this FB. FB is neglected. You have only RB, right? So solving problem related to this. That one we called as a ladder friction. Okay. Next, belt friction. Right? Let me consider you have a belt. So I think we solved lots of problems related to your rope and pulley, right? So what we do, you mostly we say that frictionless pulley. We won't call that as friction pulley. So when we say frictionless, I can say that T1 is equal to T2. Right? In that whatever tension here, that is equal to this tension. Right? That is what we identified. But when you have something like this, what it means your rope is sliding. But let me consider you are taking some water in a well. What happens to the wheel of that pulley? It is rotating, right? The wheel of the pulley is rotating. When it is rotating, it means that you have a friction, right? You have friction between the rope and the pulley, right? So which means I can say that T1 is not equal to T2. So you can't say T1 is equal to T2. Your T1 is not equal to T2. So wherever you are applying force, that side, right? That side, you have more force when compared to the other, right? So according to this problem, right? According to this diagram, your T2 is maximum. So T2 is maximum and T1 is a minimum force. So because of this force, what happens? You have additional force which will make your object to rotate, right? So what is the relation? So the relation is this. So your T max by T min is equal to e power mu theta. Okay. So this you have to remember. So it is purely depends on rheometric relations, right? So what it says is your maximum tension divided by minimum tension is equal to e power mu is the coefficient of friction and beta is angle of contact. So you can able to see that the contact is from here to here. This one is beta. Either we call it as theta or beta, whatever it is, right? The angle of contact between the pulley and the rope, right? That is e power beta. This beta you have to substitute in radians. So radians means what you have to do, you have to multiply with pi divided by 180. Right, not in angle. If they give 10 degree, what do you do? 10 into pi divided by 180. That you have to substitute it here. Okay, right? So when you have friction, I can say that T1 is not equal to T2, but T1 is relating like this. So I can say that T1 by T2 is equal to e power mu theta. Similar to this. Same formula. Right? I can apply it and I can able to identify what is my friction. Right? What is the tension in the rope? Okay. The next one is your screw friction. So let me consider you have a screw jack. So can anyone tell me what is the purpose of a screw jack?
Hold anything firmly, sir.
Yeah, very good. So to hold anything firmly. So if you have a car, so surely they will give this as an accessory, right? So what is the main purpose of this? It has to. So if you get puncture in a wheel to lift your car, what you will get? You will have a screw. So now it is not like this. It is in a different way, but of course it will have a screw. So which you have to apply to lift your car, right? So you see that the weight of the car is more when compared to this screw. So screw is very less, right? So mostly you have a square thread. You have a square thread in this screw, right? What happens is it is not allowing to come down, even though whatever the weight you are applying, right? This we call it as self-locking. This we call it as self-locking, right? Automatically lock. So which means that you can apply. You can only if you rotate you can able to come it down, you can make it to move it, otherwise because of the force it won't come down, right? This self-locking is occurring based on this particular friction, right? It is purely depends on the lead angle. So whatever the angle we are having here, so let me consider here, if I consider any one thread which is at a distance of 2 pi r and having an angle L. So the friction which is caused to avoid movement, right? So that is greater when compared to your load which is applied, right? So because of that only you are having this self-locking, right? So that deals with this screw friction, right? Right? The problem related to these things, right? That we call it as a screw friction, right? Okay, so anyway, it is not in the syllabus. So you will be studying these things in fourth semester.